Billionaire CEO meets ex-love now single black dad at parent night. Hearts collide again. Kate froze the second she stepped into that school gym. 10 years of moving on have gone by in one heartbeat. Because standing across the room, holding a little girl's hand, was the man she left without a word. Liam Brooks. The only person who ever really knew her? Her heart raced. She'd built an empire since the night she walked away, but now she couldn't even move. He looked different. Older. Calmer. But his eyes. They still knew every part of her story. Then her son ran up, calling, "Mom!" And Liam's daughter smiled from behind his leg. The teacher announced, "They're project partners." The air stopped moving.
You have a daughter?
Yes.
What do you do when the past you buried shows up holding a child who calls someone else dad? Before we proceed, let us know where you are watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to help us grow. Now, let's continue. Kate pretended to listen to the teacher's speech, but her mind was in chaos. Every word blurred into the hum of whispers and basketball squeaks. Parents kept glancing at her, some admiring, others curious. She could almost hear them saying her name under their breath. The billionaire CEO. The woman from the news. But none of that mattered, not with Liam standing 3 rows away. He hadn't said a word since she arrived. Just watched. Calm. Steady. As if he'd already made peace with a past she still couldn't face. Evan tugged her sleeve, excited to start his presentation. She smiled, but her hand trembled when she reached for the notes. Across the gym, Liam knelt beside his daughter, helping her tape something to a cardboard model. His focus was gentle, patient, the same way he used to be with her. For a second, she was 20 again, sitting in that cramped South Loop apartment they once shared. The room smelled like burnt coffee and rain. He was fixing her old laptop, teasing her for wanting to build an app that changes the world. She told him she needed to leave Chicago to make it happen. He told her the world could change right there with her. She kissed him goodbye the next morning and never came back. Now here he was, still in the same city, still building something, but it wasn't code or tech. It was a life, a daughter, a story without her. The lights dimmed for the student presentations. Evan and Maya's names glowed on the projector screen, written side by side. Kate's stomach dropped. Coincidence, maybe. But deep down, it felt like the universe was setting a stage she wasn't ready for. Evan went first, his small voice steady as he talked about building a bridge that connects both sides of a city. "So everyone can cross without fighting," he said proudly. The parents clapped. Then Maya stepped up with a shy smile that looked too much like her father's. Kate forced herself to look at Liam. His arms were crossed, but his eyes weren't cold. They were searching, measuring who she'd become. She adjusted her blazer, straightened her posture. She was used to boardrooms, to cameras, to pressure. But this was worse. Because this was personal. After the kids finished, she joined the line of parents waiting to congratulate them. When her turn came, she knelt beside Maya and said softly, "You did great." The girl smiled, polite but cautious, and thanked her. Then she ran back to Liam's side. Kate stood slowly, facing him. "Hi," she said, barely above a whisper. He nodded once. "Hey." Nothing more. Just that. A word that used to mean everything. She waited for anger, for sarcasm, for the storm she knew she deserved. But Liam didn't give her that. He was calm. Controlled. Too controlled. "How have you been?" she asked. He shrugged. "Busy. Life doesn't slow down for anyone." The conversation died there. 10 years of silence filled the space between them, thick enough to choke on. She opened her mouth to say more, but the teacher's voice cut through the tension. announcing the next round of presentations. Kate returned to her seat, pretending to take notes on her phone. Her hand hovered over Liam's name in her contacts. She had deleted it years ago, but somehow it was still saved in the cloud. She stared at the screen until it blurred. She thought she'd outgrown her past. She thought success erased guilt. But sitting in that gym, she realized the truth that some mistakes don't fade. They wait. They watch. And when the timing's right, they walk back into your life with a child holding their hand. Across the room, Liam glanced her way again. This time, their eyes locked. Neither looked away. It was brief, wordless, and electric, an entire history condensed into a single look. She turned first. But inside, she knew the story wasn't over. Not even close. The break started with the kind of chaos only elementary schools could manage. Juice boxes popping open, paper cups spilling, parents shuffling around to find their kids. Kate moved to the side of the gym, answering a text from her assistant about a board meeting she was missing back in Chicago. She barely noticed Maya walking past until it happened. A small gasp. Then the cold splash of orange juice across her white silk blouse. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Maya froze, her eyes wide. The cup dangled helplessly in her hand. Kate blinked down at the stain spreading across her chest, then forced a smile. "It's okay. Really. Don't worry." Liam appeared almost instantly, crouching beside his daughter with paper towels. "Maya," he said softly, "what do we say?" "I'm sorry," she whispered again, cheeks red. Kate laughed once, dry and nervous. "It's just fabric," she said, dabbing at it with a napkin. "Nothing a dry cleaner can't fix." Liam looked up at her. For a second, neither spoke. The noise of the gym seemed to fade. It wasn't just a stain, it was a crack in the wall between them, small but real. "Still hate messes, huh?" he said quietly. She froze, then smiled despite herself. "Some things don't change." "Some do," he replied. That landed heavier than she expected. They stood there, surrounded by chatter and laughter, two people trying not to acknowledge the history hanging in the air. When the kids ran off toward the snack table, Liam gestured toward the hallway. "Come on, there's a sink by the science lab. You can rinse that off." She followed. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as they walked in silence. The hallway smelled faintly of crayons and floor polish. "So," she said finally, "you've got a daughter. She's great." "Yeah," he said with a small nod. "She's my sister's kid, actually." Kate looked at him. "Your sister's?" "She passed away," he said simply. "Car accident. It was a long time ago. Her breath caught." "Liam, I didn't know." He shrugged, not out of indifference but acceptance. "No reason you would. You were gone." The words weren't cruel, just honest. That made them cut deeper. "I'm sorry," she said softly. He leaned against the wall, folding his arms. "It's okay. It was rough at first, but Maya needed someone. So I stayed. Picked up extra shifts at the shop. Eventually, I got my own place near the school. Simple life. Simple." The word echoed in her head. She couldn't remember the last time her own life had been that. Everything she did now came with headlines, contracts, and pressure. "You've done a good job," she said. "She's confident. Kind. Thanks." He looked at her, calm and steady. "Guess we both built something after all." She laughed softly. "Yeah. Different blueprints, though." For a moment, the tension eased. Then his expression shifted, curious, measured. "You happy?" The question caught her off guard. "Of course. My company's expanding. We're leading in AI development. It's everything I worked for." He nodded slowly. That's not what I asked. Her throat tightened. She wanted to say yes, but the words wouldn't come. The intercom crackled overhead, saving her from answering. The teacher's voice echoed through the hall. Parents, please return to the gym for a brief announcement. Liam pushed off the wall. Guess that's us. They walked back together, close but not touching. Every step felt like a negotiation between who they were and who they'd become. Inside, the teacher stood at the microphone, smiling nervously. Before we wrap up tonight, we have one quick item. The school's playground needs a redesign. We'll be forming a parent committee to oversee the project, and, of course, we'll need sponsors to help fund it. The word sponsors hit the room like a stone dropped in water. Heads turned almost instantly toward Kate. She felt the shift. Eyes, murmurs, a few expectant smiles. Even the teacher's gaze lingered on her a little too long. Liam stood beside her, arms crossed. He didn't say a word, but his posture said enough. Kate managed a faint smile. That's a great idea, she said, keeping her tone neutral. Wonderful, the teacher said, relieved. We'll be sending sign-up sheets soon. As people began chatting, Kate glanced at Liam. His expression was unreadable. You think I should? She asked quietly. Do what? Help. He gave a small shrug. That's up to you. The answer irritated her more than she expected. It's for the kids. Of course I'll help. Then do it, he said. Just don't make it about you. That landed like a punch. I'm not. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? Because from what I remember, you like fixing things you can control. Her jaw tightened. This isn't about control. It's about giving back. Then prove it. He turned to walk away before she could respond. She watched him leave, anger and shame tangling inside her. He wasn't wrong, and that was what hurt most. Back in her car later, she stared at the juice stain still faintly visible on her blouse. It wasn't coming out. She could replace the shirt, but not what it reminded her of. For years, she told herself that leaving was necessary, that ambition and love couldn't coexist. But now, watching Liam live quietly, humbly, she started to wonder if she'd confused success with escape. The next morning, her inbox was already full of emails about the school's project. Reporters wanted quotes. Parents wanted meetings. The world was watching again, and she couldn't tell if that was validation or punishment. She closed her laptop and sat back, the silence heavy. For the first time in a long while, she didn't know what move to make. Would helping the school heal her guilt or reopen a wound she'd spent a decade trying to close? By morning, the whispers had become headlines. Local billionaire returns to her roots, plans major donation to Lincoln Elementary. The article was flattering enough, written by someone who clearly never set foot in that gym. But the subtext hit like a bruise. Tech CEO eyes school property for redevelopment. Kate scrolled through the comments, her stomach tightening. She's buying the land. Goodbye. Neighborhood. Rich people always ruin what they touch. She slammed her laptop shut. It wasn't true, at least, not in her mind. She'd only offered to help, not to take over. But the internet didn't care about nuance, and the school board had already reached out asking to clarify her intentions. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Liam. Didn't take long. That was it. No greeting. No emoji. Just that. She typed back. I didn't leak anything. Then deleted it. Typed again. You know how the press is. Deleted that too. Finally, she put the phone down. No version of that conversation ended well. Later that afternoon, she pulled up to the school parking lot for the first committee meeting. The place looked different under the weight of attention. A local reporter stood by the fence, pretending to film, but clearly waiting for her. Parents huddled in small groups, watching. Liam was already there, leaning against the steps, talking with another dad. He looked too calm. The same quiet confidence that used to steady her now felt like judgment. Inside the classroom, folding chairs formed a half-circle around a whiteboard. The teacher smiled nervously when Kate walked in. "We're so grateful you could make it, Ms. Dawson." "Kate's fine," she said, setting her bag down. "I'm just here to help however I can." Someone in the back muttered, "Yeah, that's what they all say." Kate pretended not to hear. The meeting began. Budget estimates, timelines, and city permits. Then the teacher gestured toward her. Kate offered to share a preliminary design proposal. Kate stood, clearing her throat. "I wanted to explore a plan that updates the playground safely, adds accessible equipment, and maybe—" Liam interrupted, his voice even but firm. "Before we talk about plans, maybe we should ask the community what they actually want." Kate turned to him. "That's what this is, Liam, community input." He didn't flinch. Input means listening, not deciding for people. The room went still. The tension was electric, not shouting, just two people pressing against years of unspoken history. Kate forced a breath. "This isn't about control. It's about giving kids something better." "Better for who?" he asked. "The parents who'll be priced out when property values spike? The small businesses that'll vanish when investors move in?" "That's not what this is," she said sharply. He leaned forward. "Then what is it, Kate?" She froze. The way he said her name, calm, direct, made the whole room disappear. It was just them again, in the old apartment, arguing over the same things that tore them apart. Her voice cracked slightly. "Not everything I do is about control, Liam." He nodded once. "Then prove it." The teacher tried to defuse the silence. "Maybe we should, table this part for next week." Kate sat down, hands trembling slightly. She could feel eyes on her, judgment she couldn't shake off. Every parent suddenly seemed to have a quiet opinion, whispered behind polite smiles. When the meeting ended, Liam stayed behind to help stack chairs. She walked past him, holding her purse like armor. "You didn't have to embarrass me in there," she said under her breath. "I didn't," he replied. "I just said what everyone else was thinking." "Right," she muttered. The noble mechanic teaching the billionaire a lesson. He sighed, wiping his hands on a rag from his back pocket. "You still think everything's about you, don't you?" She didn't answer. Outside, the evening air was sharp and cool. Reporters were gone now, but the hum of gossip lingered. She sat in her car, engine off, watching the school lights flicker out one by one. Across the street stood the old diner they used to go to after late-night study sessions. The neon sign still buzzed weakly, half the letters dead. Families came and went through the door, kids laughing, parents chatting like nothing in the world could break them. She stared at the scene, a weight pressing on her chest. For years, she'd told herself she was leaving to become someone powerful, untouchable. But power was lonely. And tonight, sitting in that car, she'd never felt smaller. She opened her phone and scrolled to the article again. There was a photo of her leaving the meeting earlier, her expression hard and unreadable. The caption read, "Kate Dawson defends her plan amid community backlash." She barely recognized herself. Back then, she was a girl with dreams and fear and love she didn't know how to hold. Now she was a headline. A product. A stranger in her own hometown. Liam's words replayed in her mind. Then prove it. She didn't know what proving it meant anymore. Buying the playground wouldn't fix what broke between them or what broke inside her. Her son's voice echoed from earlier that night. "Mom, "Did you and Maya's dad used to be friends?" She'd smiled and said, "Something like that." But the truth was heavier than that. They weren't friends. They were unfinished. She sat there until the diner lights dimmed, then started her car. The road home stretched dark and empty. Tomorrow, she would walk back into that school. Not as the billionaire the headlines painted, but as someone trying, finally, to listen. But when she returned, something or someone would change everything. The next week, the gym was packed again, this time with science fair posters, art boards, and hand-painted projects lined up along the walls. Parents filled the bleachers, holding phones ready to film. But the air was different now. Less gossip, more anticipation. Everyone had heard about the billionaire and the mechanic. Everyone wanted to see how they'd act sitting only a few rows apart. Kate arrived early. She wore simple jeans and a soft gray sweater, no designer logos, no heels. Just a mom trying to blend in. She set up Evan's model on the table, a tiny cardboard city with bridges, trees, and one bright green playground in the center. He'd built it with Maya over the weekend, laughing in her living room like they'd known each other forever. Liam walked in moments later, carrying a thermos and Maya's backpack. Their eyes met across the gym. No anger, no glares, just quiet recognition. He nodded once. She returned it. It was the first unspoken peace offering. When the teacher called the students forward, Evan grabbed the microphone with both hands. His voice trembled at first, but then steadied. "Our project is called A Place for Everyone," he said. "It's about building a city where kids don't have to pick sides. Where people share the playground, no matter who's rich or poor." The room went silent. Maya stepped up beside him, holding the cardboard city. "My dad helps fix cars for people who can't pay right away," she said shyly. "And Evan's mom helps build computers that make people's lives better. We wanted to mix both. Because a good city needs people who fix things and people who build things." Laughter rippled softly through the crowd, not mocking, but moved. Kate's throat tightened. She'd prepped speeches her whole career, keynote addresses, investor pitches, and press interviews. But nothing she'd ever said had hit harder than her son's simple words. Where people share the playground. She looked at Liam. He was staring at the kids, jaw tight, eyes glistening. He wasn't just proud, he was stunned. This was their story retold through two children who hadn't lived it, but somehow understood it better than they ever did. When the applause came, it filled the room like sunlight. Parents stood. Even the teacher wiped her eyes. Kate felt tears rise but blinked them back, clapping hard enough to hide it. Afterward, the crowd scattered into smaller groups. Kids ran between tables showing off projects. Evan and Maya went to get cookies from the refreshment table, giggling about who had more sprinkles. Kate found herself standing beside Liam again. No microphones, no crowd, just hallway noise and the faint buzz of vending machines. "They did very good," he said quietly. "They did more than good," she answered. Then, after a pause, "You raised her well." He looked down, smiling faintly. "You did too." Silence settled, not cold this time, just heavy, uncertain. She hesitated, then spoke. "I saw the way people looked at me last week. Maybe I didn't make it easy. Maybe I forgot what community really means." He shook his head. "You don't owe anyone an apology for succeeding, Kate. You just forgot that you didn't have to do it alone." She met his eyes. "And you never got angry. Not once." "I was angry," he admitted. "A long time ago. But holding on to it didn't change anything. Maya needed peace. So I learned how to live in it." His voice was steady, but his eyes told a different story, the kind that still remembered the night she left, the quiet that followed, the the years that stretched on without answers. Kate stepped closer. You deserved better than silence. He exhaled slowly. We both did. For a moment, they just stood there, the hum of laughter down the hall, the echo of children's voices fading into something softer. Then Evan came running up, holding the first-place ribbon in his hand. Mom! We won! Kate knelt, hugging him tight. I'm proud of you, baby. Maya beamed beside him. We both won. Liam chuckled. Guess that means we're gonna need to celebrate. Kate stood, smiling for real this time. Dinner at the diner? He raised an eyebrow. That old place still open? She nodded. Neon's half broken. Fries are still perfect. He smiled the kind that reached his eyes again. Then yeah. Dinner. As they walked out together, side by side but careful not to rush, something unspoken passed between them. Not a promise. Not a restart. Just understanding. Outside, the evening air felt lighter. The kids raced ahead, laughing. For once, Kate didn't check her phone or think about meetings or headlines. She just watched them, two little people proving what adults always forget. Healing doesn't start with grand gestures. It starts with sharing the same space again. She looked at Liam and said quietly, maybe we can build the playground together. Not mine. Not yours. Ours. He nodded slowly. We'll see. And in that moment, just for a heartbeat, the past didn't feel like a wound anymore. It felt like soil. Something new could grow there. But as they crossed the parking lot, a familiar voice called from behind, the school board director, waving papers. Ms. Dawson, we need to talk about your offer. Kate stopped. Liam turned to her. The peace flickered. Because sometimes, even when hearts start to heal, the world finds a way to test how much they can really take. Can two people who broke once ever rebuild without breaking again? The next morning, Kate's phone buzzed non-stop. Her face was everywhere, photos of her at the school, hair pulled back, dirt on her hands, eyes squinting under the sun. The headline hit like a slap. CEO uses public school for PR. Every comment below felt like a jab. Words like fake, performance, and strategy filled her feed. She closed the laptop, pulse hammering. 4 years, she'd trained herself to handle pressure. But this was personal. She wasn't defending a company this time. She was defending her name. Her intent. Her son's world. She almost called her assistant to pull every donation, shut it all down, and walk away from the neighborhood again, the same way she had before. But then a knock. When she opened the office door, Liam stood there, still in his grease-stained work shirt, holding a paper cup of coffee. You always ran when things got loud, he said quietly. Kate forced a smile, brittle and shaky. I'm not running. I'm just... He cut her off gently. You are. Just with nicer shoes this time. Her voice cracked. You think I wanted this attention? I was trying to help. He stepped closer, not accusing, not angry, just honest. Then stay and prove it. That hit harder than the headlines. The silence stretched, heavy with everything they hadn't said in 10 years. Finally, she whispered, you don't know what it's like to lose everything you worked for. He shrugged. You don't know what it's like to keep working when you've already lost everything. Something inside her gave way, the wall she'd built between guilt and truth. Her eyes blurred. I left because I didn't know how to stay when I wasn't winning. Liam's voice softened. Then maybe it's time you learned how. He set the coffee on her desk, gave a faint smile, and walked away. The scent of oil and cheap brew lingered in the air long after he left, the kind of smell that reminded her what real effort looked like. She looked at her reflection in the glass, the polished, untouchable CEO, and whispered to no one, maybe he's right. Would you stay and face the noise, or walk away to protect your pride? The next weekend, the volunteers gathered at the school grounds again. Kate showed up. No cameras, no chauffeur, no headlines. Just her. Old jeans, sneakers, and a bucket of paint. Some parents still looked at her with quiet suspicion, but she didn't speak much. She picked up a brush, kneeled beside a little fence, and started painting. The sun was hot. Her hands ached. She smudged her face, trying to wipe sweat off her cheek. A few kids laughed, and she laughed with them, the kind of laugh that sounded real, not rehearsed. Hours passed. Liam arrived late, toolbox in hand. He nodded at her but didn't say much. He didn't need to. He worked beside her, tightening bolts, digging holes, and passing her nails when she ran out. For the first time, there was no tension, just a quiet rhythm. Work. Breathing. Sunlight. By the end of the day, the half-built playground stood surrounded by pizza boxes and soda cans. A few parents clapped. Someone turned on the music. Kids ran through the dirt, leaving footprints everywhere. Kate sat on the grass, exhausted. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like the woman everyone watched. She just felt part of something. Liam walked over and handed her a bottle of water. Didn't think I'd ever see you with paint under your nails. She smiled. Didn't think I'd ever see you not telling me what I'm doing wrong. He grinned faintly. Guess we're both learning. As the sun dropped low, painting the sky orange, Kate realized something small but powerful. For once, she wasn't performing. She was simply showing up. That night, driving home with paint stains on her jeans, she whispered to herself, "This feels more like success than anything I've built." Maybe success isn't about how high you climb, but how real you're willing to be when everyone's watching. If you're still here, like and subscribe for more stories that remind us sometimes. Change starts with showing up. A few weeks later, the playground was almost done. Kate found herself walking the path she and Liam had cleared days before, heading toward the swings. He was there, fixing a chain. She waited until he noticed. He stood up, wiping his hands. Didn't expect company. She hesitated. "I just wanted to say, thank you." He tilted his head. "For what?" "For not walking away when you could've." Liam leaned against the swing post. "I was angry for a long time, Kate. But I wasn't surprised. You always had one foot out the door, even when you said you loved me." Her throat tightened, but she didn't look away. "I know. I thought if I left first, I couldn't be left behind." He took a breath. "So what now?" Kate looked around at the playground, the slides, and the laughter echoing from across the field. "Now I stop running." He nodded slowly. "That's good." The wind picked up, carrying the sound of kids shouting, and for a moment it felt like the past didn't sting anymore. Just a memory they'd both survived. She stepped closer. "I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry." He nodded again. "You already said it by showing up." There was no grand gesture, no kiss, just quiet understanding under a fading sky. He reached out, touched her hand lightly. "This doesn't have to be love again. It can just be forgiveness." Her voice trembled. "Maybe that's the start. Would you accept forgiveness, even if love never followed?" Months later, the playground opened. No press, no banners, just laughter. The community gathered. Kids climbed the slides they'd painted together. Parents chatted over coffee. Kate stood near the swings, watching her son race alongside Maya. Their laughter carried through the air unfiltered, pure. Liam joined her, hands in his pockets. "Looks good, doesn't it?" She smiled. Better than anything money could have bought. He nodded, eyes on the children. Guess they figured it out before we did. They stood there, shoulder to shoulder, not needing to say much. The city skyline glowed in the distance, the same skyline Kate once thought was the measure of her worth. Now, it just looked like a background. She exhaled slowly. Thank you for letting me try again. Liam smiled. Thank you for showing up. They watched as their kids shared the same swing, taking turns pushing each other higher. Sometimes, healing doesn't come in grand moments. It comes in quiet ones, when two people choose peace over pride. The world didn't change overnight, but they did. Sometimes, the hardest person to face is the one who still remembers who you were before success changed you. Would you have stayed or walked away again? Tell us where you're watching from, subscribe for more powerful stories, and stay tuned because tomorrow we'll drop another story you won't want to miss. Your support helps us keep bringing you these stories.